Hello, everyone. I'm Carrie Fisher, Senior Accessibility Program Manager at GitHub, and I'm thrilled to welcome you all to our session titled Empowering the Tech Community for an Accessible Future at this year's Microsoft Ability Summit. Today is meaningful for me as I have the honor of moderating a panel comprising of three incredibly knowledgeable and thoughtful leaders in the digital accessibility space. These are individuals I've also had the privilege of collaborating with on various initiatives, so I couldn't be more excited to have them join us today. Allow me to quickly introduce our esteemed panelists. First, we have Sam Evans, the Certification Director of the International Association of Accessibility Professionals, also known as IAAP, Kate Sonka, the Executive Director of Teach Access, and Sean Henry, the Web Accessibility Initiative, WAY, Program Lead and Accessibility Education and Communications Lead for the W3C. Each of them brings a wealth of experience and insights from their respective organizations, and they're here to share their perspectives on empowering the developers of tomorrow. So let's jump right into it and explore what lies ahead. But first, let's get to know our panelists and their organizations a little bit better. Sam, would you like to kick us off?
Sure. Thanks, Carrie. My name is Sam Evans, and I'm the Certification Director at IAAP. And I am a deaf and hard of hearing person. I also live with dyscalculia for reading learning disabilities. And I've been working in associations, nonprofit management for about 25 years, and been really pleased to spend the last 7 years working in disability inclusion support and accessibility. IAAP is a professional membership society or an association for those people who work in accessibility. And our goal is to define, promote, and improve and diversify the accessibility profession around the world through certification, education, and networking to make more accessible products, services, and environments. We have about 8,000 members around the world in 100 countries with 7 geo-local chapters. And on our certification side of things, we have certified over 6,000 people in 80 countries around the world since 2016, covering things like accessibility core competencies for everyone who works in disability inclusion, web accessibility for people who are intermediate technical specialists, document accessibility, and the built environment. So we have several videos from some of our certification holders that are going to share their insights about being people with disabilities, certified leaders in accessibility. So let's turn it over to them.
Hello, my name is Mark McGuire. I'm a certified professional with accessibility, and I work with different businesses, and I work as a consultant in technology with accessibility. So my experience with certification is that I have 2 certifications. One, I have the CPAC, and I also have WAS certification. I have them both, and the CWPA as well. So my experience is that the impact from getting those certifications was the first thing is the CPAC really opened up the opportunity for different types of presentations and invitations to be on a panel and a lot of networking. It's really been a wonderful experience meeting new people that's very interested in learning more about accessibility. And the second, the WAS certification that I've obtained opened up opportunities for even more in-depth networking with professional technology and different areas of our industry with website accessibility. So my call to action is for businesses to work towards a goal to be able to improve accessibility internally and externally of their organization. They really need to focus on their bias. We have a lot of bias happening internally in workplaces. It's just easy to be working inside of a box, typically, without knowing how it influences other people, especially people with disabilities. People with disabilities have very different experiences. I suggest to invite people with disabilities to join that box So it will grow and it will get bigger, and we could see more of a variety of different ways to be able to solve for the same problem.
Wow, that's a lot. Thank you for all the work you've been doing so far. Kate, would you like to tell us a little bit about Teach Access?
Yes, happy to. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I'm thrilled to be here among such great people. My name is Kate Sonka. I'm the Executive Director of Teach Access. My background is in higher education. I've been working in higher education for 14 plus years, I think now. I had to do the math. My disciplinary background is in language acquisition and linguistics, with a focus on faculty professional development and curriculum development and support. So for many years, I worked in higher ed, thinking about ways we can improve teaching and learning and make them more inclusive spaces. And so certainly that came from my experience working with language learners, but eventually really became a focus of accessibility as well. And we'll talk more about the work that we're doing with Teach Access now. But really my background is an ongoing focus on creating these inclusive teaching and learning spaces. I personally don't identify as someone with a disability, but I have been a lifelong advocate and ally of the community. My parents were both teachers at the Wisconsin School for the Blind, so but really feel like I've lived, I don't have lived experience personally, but have a deep appreciation and understanding of being able to work in this space as someone who does not identify as disabled. Our organization, we are a nonprofit organization, and we are national. And our work is to close what we call the accessibility technology skills gap. And this is an idea where industry, writ large, all industry, is not able to find enough recent graduates who know at least something about disability and accessibility. We work really collaboratively, and we'll talk more about this later, but with industry, higher education, various other nonprofit organizations, disability advocacy groups, all with the goal of introducing as many students as possible to these topics. And I'll continue to talk a bit more about resources and training that we have to support faculty to teach about these topics and students to learn. You'll hear from two students in a moment, Emily and Hannah, who have worked with us both as interns as well as have learned about accessibility. And they're going to share a little bit about their experience learning and working in these spaces and the impact it's had on the work they're doing now as interns and students, and what they think that will look like as they move into the future. So happy to have you hear from them, and I'll turn it over to them.
Hi, my name is Emily Patterson, and I am a senior at Michigan State University studying experience architecture and professional writing. I currently am Teach Access student intern, and I also serve as a lead for their student ambassador program. Well, for me, I spend a lot of my time working in creating graphic design. And so a lot of my process has involved incorporating accessible practices. So for example, I'm constantly using color contrast tools to make sure that my color and my text are readable against each other. And so that ensures that my content is being communicated most effectively. Or I also spend a lot of my time writing alt text to ensure that there's not only a visual means of getting my understanding in my graphic, but also a written and spoken means of communicating that. There's a lot of techniques that you can be incorporating into your workflow as a designer. And so accessibility is something I don't even think about anymore. It's just become a natural part of my process. And so I think the marker of a good designer is taking accessibility and applying it to your work and not being afraid to shy away from that. And so that makes you a much more effective communicator by including those little practices in mind. And so it's something that you need to invest your time into, learning about best practices, best techniques, and listening to people with lived experiences. But it's not something that's going to become all time consuming, especially when so many more people are going to be included and invited into your work through these simple practices.
Hi, my name is Hannah Kindry, and I'm a master's student at Michigan State University studying cybercrime and digital investigations. At the university, I also work in MSU IT as lead accessibility assistant, and I'm also president of Accessibility Professionals at MSU, which is a club that aims to match people interested in accessibility with professionals in the field for mentorship and learning opportunities. I'm also a lead for the Teach Access Student Ambassador Program. So when I was in a past internship, I noticed that our training documents were pretty inaccessible. So I asked my supervisor, hey, just for future reference, am I okay to change these documents a little bit to make sure that they're accessible for everybody? And once I got the go-ahead, I was able to go ahead and change that. It's kind of exciting to me knowing that I can make a difference in whatever career I end up in, because I know a lot of people just don't know about accessibility, but once they're aware of it, they're really, really open to learning about accessibility if you phrase it right. I'm very excited and grateful that I have this opportunity in the future to be able to incorporate accessible practices into whatever I do, whether that's writing papers or doing something a little bigger in my future career.
That's amazing, Kate. I am actually one of your million students, so I'm happy to be one and be a part of that kind of larger initiative. So thank you for that. Okay, Sean, would you like to tell us a little bit about WAVE?
I'm great. I'm Sean, also sometimes known as Shauna on various platforms, but you can call me either. My background is in user-centered design of software from way back, also computer science and technical writing. And I got involved in accessibility in the 90s out of personal necessity, which I'm happy to chat about when anyone wants. And at W3C, I started as an accessibility education and communications over 20 years ago, and I'm now the accessibility program lead at W3C. So W3C is the international organization that develops the standards for the web. It was founded 30 years ago by Tim Berners-Lee, who is the inventor of the web. And within that, we have a group called the Web Accessibility Initiative. Initials are WAI, which we pronounce way. Unfortunately, screen readers pronounce it Y, but that's okay. You probably know us best for the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, WCAG, which I pronounce WCAG, or also ARIA, ARIA, which is a technical specification for accessibility. And a real important thing is that last year, W3C relaunched as a public interest nonprofit with accessibility as a key aspect of the mission to work together around the world for the benefit of humanity. So we're really excited about that, how accessibility is fitting in with the new W3C as the organization continues to evolve. Okay, and next we have a couple of videos to show you just some perspectives of people with disabilities.
I'm Daniel Montalvo from Spain. I was born blind. I rely on screen readers and Braille to use the web. I use the web through my life. For example, accessible libraries help me a lot at university. Now I enjoy helping my daughter with schoolwork using accessible collaborative editing tools on the web. There are still issues though. For example, I wanted to plan a surprise trip for my family, but the travel agency website wasn't accessible. When it's accessible, I can use the web easily. That's in large part due to W3C's accessibility standards and resources that provide the guidance people need to make the web accessible. They're vital for improving the life of people with disabilities. And they apply whether you're in Spain or anywhere else in the world. I know several disability organizations and individual advocates who use W3C resources to build up their advocacy strategies. I'm proud to work with W3C and the broader community to make the digital world more accessible.
Hi, Sean here to share some of my experiences with digital accessibility. My accessibility needs are very different from Danielle's, even though blindness and low vision are often grouped together as visual disabilities. I can read text on the screen when I can customize it to meet my needs. I use a dark background with text not too bright. I set large fonts and increased line spacing, and a big mouse pointer and a wide scroll bar. I need websites to work with my settings. My specific needs change based on if I'm in a relapse or remission, based on tiredness, medication, and other factors. Usually I can get things readable. However, one of my biggest accessibility frustrations was when I was working on my master's degree research and had to deal with PDFs. Even tagged PDFs were inaccessible to me with low vision. I'm also very aware of the overlap with accessibility and issues experienced by my elderly parents and my husband's family on their rural farm with limited, expensive internet. It really brings home that accessibility is essential for some and useful for all.
Thank you all for offering insights into your organizations and providing a glimpse into your backgrounds. Let's delve into our first question. Could each of you elaborate on your primary audience and the strategies you employ to ensure that lived experiences are accurately represented within your work? Let's start with Sean this time.
Sure. Well, indirectly, the primary audience for our work is people with disabilities. However, the way we get there or directly is really anyone involved in digital accessibility, technology development, et cetera. So designers, developers, content authors, project managers, other standards developers, educators, policymakers. How we ensure that lived experience is representative, we have people with disabilities active throughout W3C working groups. Throughout staff. We have task forces that focus on specific disabilities to help discuss specific issues and bring those to the broader work. And we also seek input on specific issues. And then we encourage contribution and review and comments from everybody. And I can say more about that later, but we really are broad in terms of inviting people to contribute.
Yes, your impact is huge, international. I mean, can't get much bigger than that. All right, Sam, could you tell us a little bit about what IAAP does?
Sure. So, like Sean had mentioned for W3C, indirectly, we do touch and serve people with disabilities, but also the public at large. Our direct engagement is with professionals, people who are working in both in digital and physical accessibility, policy, governance, customer journeys, and organization management. So we directly engage with a lot of people that are involved in, lead, contribute to, and infuse their championship of accessibility in their work. So they are able to steer directions, course correct, or infuse accessibility all the way at the beginning of thought process design and change management. So we're really pleased to support all of those people in their work. As far as lived experience goes, we really do hold to the tenet that accessibility and disability projects and programs should be led by people with disabilities. And so we're pleased to see good representation in our membership, across our membership and our volunteer leadership and working groups. We do require disability leadership across all of our programs. So we are always going to ensure that we have people across a breadth of disabilities and different types of assistive technology and adaptive strategies to help inform and guide our programs in every area, with the volunteer leadership for the membership organization, our advocacy, and our research programs, as well as all of my certification programs. So on our staff side, though, myself included, our managing director and others, we are people with disabilities or have loved ones with disabilities or are champions and allies of accessibility. So we also are a disability-led organization.
That's amazing to hear. I love to hear, especially about leadership and making sure that those roles have people with lived experiences on them as well. Same with W3C. And I know Kate's going to tell us a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, thanks, Carrie. I'm sensing a theme between both Sean and Sam, of course, indirectly, and really most importantly, the work that we're doing and who we're serving and Teach Access are people with disabilities, making sure that that we're including those voices in the work we're doing, and that as our students graduate, they are creating products and services that are accessible. But very specifically or very directly, what we do as Teach Access, we are serving educators, faculty, academic staff, instructional designers, et cetera, as well as students in higher education. And so the work that we're doing is to specifically engage with those populations in higher education. And that could be 2-year campuses, 4-year campuses, minority serving institutions, et cetera, predominantly white institutions, making sure that we're supporting them to learn about accessibility and disability. We got started with a focus on STEM and design fields, especially because we came out of conversations that tech was having. It made sense that that was the place that we started. But since the beginning up till today and into the future, we continue to expand into many other disciplines because, of course, we all believe, or at least I can speak for myself, believe that everybody should know about these topics. It doesn't matter what you're studying. Of course, some disciplines lend themselves to it maybe more than others, but certainly we've seen great interest in, business courses, marketing courses, technical writing, et cetera. But of course, our ultimate goal is that products and services are what we call born accessible, so that people with disabilities can engage with those from the beginning. As I noted, I personally don't identify as having disability, so it's crucially important, imperative that the people that are working with our organization, that we do ensure that we have representation. So several of our board of directors members identify as having a disability. We have staff who have identify as disabled, many volunteers. We do know that some of our faculty and student participants also identify as disabled, although it's not the primary focus, that we are only recruiting or only engaging with that community, but that there are absolutely those voices represented. And then, of course, we have very intentional collaborations with disability or advocacy organizations to ensure that what we're doing is relevant and what we're doing is actually what the community would like to see or is looking for, and not just something that we think would be great. And so that's how we do our work.
I love that you're all doing the nothing about us without us and living it and not just talking about it, but putting actions behind that. So cheers to all of you. Thank you for doing that and continuing to do that hopefully in the future. Again, thank you for providing your insights. Moving forward, let's discuss about the types of organizations and companies you typically partner with. Could you elaborate a little bit on how you utilize these partnerships to amplify your impact on individuals with lived experiences and within the technology industry as a whole? Kate, could you start this time?
Yeah, happy to. So in terms of partnering with, I hinted at it in my last answer, but in terms of industry, when we're looking at who we're collaborating with, as I said, it really came out of conversations sort of the tech industry was having. So still a crucial part of that. The people who are creating our digital products, our digital services, apps, websites. But as I've also said, it can't stop there, and it shouldn't just be that industry. And so as we've grown, we've been able to continue including other types of industries. So healthcare, financial, et cetera. And that is our goal. That is an organizational goal, is to continue bringing in and speaking with and working with different types of industry. I've also mentioned a couple times, it's really crucial. We shouldn't be doing this work if we aren't also working with disability advocacy groups and nonprofit organizations. And then in terms of our educational institutions, we really actively and deliberately ensure that we're working with all types. And so I mentioned 2-year campuses, 4-year campuses, certainly predominantly white institutions, but really intentionally looking at minority serving institutions and ensuring that we're engaging in ways that are most useful. So that would include historically Black colleges and universities, Hispanic serving institutions, tribal colleges and universities, and so forth.
All right, Sean, could you tell us a little bit about W3C? And today I learned that it's not called Y, it's called WAY. I learned something new. So I will remember that and tell everyone in the future about that.
Well, it's funny, actually. The people, primary screen readers, you pronounce it Y, but we pronounce it WAY, right? So the kind of organizations and companies we partner with, I mean, first of all, it's important to note that W3C is an international organization. We had what our hosts from the past are now called partners in the new nonprofit. So we have we're in Japan, in France, in China, as well as the U.S. are primary partners, and then we also have chapters throughout the world. So it's really, again, very international. W3C has been a membership organization. Membership is open, so there's very few requirements for membership, which sometimes means we have members who disagree with each other on some fundamental issues, and maybe that some individual staff even maybe disagree with. But W3C is a place where we bring together diverse voices to work on things. So membership is open. We also have a way for individual participants to contribute, to actively participate in groups if you're not part of a member. And we invite public comments. So all of the work at W3C is available for public comment, and especially the stuff that we do at WAI, WAI, is most of that is actually developed publicly. So you can watch, you can look at the rough drafts, the minutes of meetings, where now a lot of the development is on GitHub. So toss to you, Carrie. So it's open for anybody to contribute.
I was going to say that's how Sean and I first met, even though we're practically neighbors. We both worked on the free edX course on Intro to Accessibility from the W3C and the WAI group. Sorry, I got to get it right. I practiced that. But that was a great opportunity. And there were a lot, if you haven't checked out that resource yet, that training material, take a look at it. You have a lot more than that. And I love that you open it up to so many people to have input on it. I mean, it comes good and bad, as you kind of mentioned there, but at least everyone gets to be heard. And I think that's one of the big parts of what we do, is we want to make sure that everybody's voice is included. So I love that for you all. So, all right, Sam, would you like to talk a little bit about IAAP now?
So IAAP is a nonprofit membership organization. So all of our members and those we serve people with disabilities indirectly, but our direct service is to professionals that work in both in digital and physical accessibility, policy and governance, kind of customer journey and organization management. Our next question is about lived experience and how we ensure lived experience is infused in the work that we do at IAAP. We firmly believe across all of our work that accessibility projects and disability inclusion programs should always be led by people with disabilities. And so we're really pleased to see good representation in our membership of people with disabilities. That includes in our volunteer leadership and our working groups. We require disability leadership across all of our programs. So that's going to be our subject matter experts on certifications, our advisory councils, our working groups, our ad hoc, as well as our committees and our Global Leadership Council. So we have disability representation and leadership in all of our groups. For our staff side as well, I'm really pleased that we can say, both myself included, our managing director, and others in our staff, we are disability led, but we are also gathered and joined by colleagues and team members who are great accessibility champions and also have loved ones that are people with disabilities as well. So we are disability led and infused throughout all our programs.
I was one of the lucky ones to just recently be in the WAS group to do evaluation of questions, and it was very intricate, and it was very, I think, Kate, especially you would appreciate it coming from academia, with where you're, how do you write a great question, and how do you do it in such a way that is, the answers aren't tricky, but they are difficult. You have to know what you're talking about to answer it. So I thought that was really cool insight to be able to see behind the scenes. Thank you again, all of you, for providing those insightful responses. Now here's your chance to address any frequently asked questions. What key messages or information would you like people to take away from this discussion today? Let's start off with Sam.
So we get a couple of different folks that come back, and the most frequently asked questions are, how do we start? How does my company get started? How do we make it better? Where do I find the resources to build our accessibility program? And how do I get training and education to certify my team? Those are the big questions. So we refer out, we have some information, but we partner out and give those resources out. I regularly go to W3C's, Train the Trainer curriculum program content to Teach Access resources. So we are regularly calling on the resources that all of our colleagues in this world have put together to help answer those questions. How do I start? How do we do better? Where to get the resources? But from individuals, the biggest question I get asked, and Kate, I think we talked about this once, is can I be an accessibility professional if I don't work in accessibility full time? Nonstop, that is the top question I get from individuals. And my answer is always, you can be an accessibility champion no matter how you influence accessibility. So absolutely. It doesn't have to be in your title. It doesn't have to be your primary role. And that is where people get really excited. So then people say, well, how do I start a career in accessibility? And then how do I learn more about it in my profession? So we do work on career pathways, and so that role-based learning, so that people can learn how to have success in their roles and how they do contribute to accessibility.
That's amazing. All right, Kate, you want to tell us a little bit about the number one question you always get asked at Teach Access?
Oh, the number one. I was going to build off of what Sam said, because it's true. We have had these conversations. I think our actual number one question, and then I'll come back to building off of Sam's answer as well, is, can Teach Access, from educators, can Teach Access help me make my teaching materials accessible? And while the answer is yes, we point to resources that Sean's group has and Sam's group has, and so many other organizations that offer great information around, here's how you could make a syllabus accessible. Here's how to add alt text to your images in your slide deck. That's what we kind of put under this umbrella that we call in Teach Access teaching accessibly. And so it's this idea of, it's the practice of, and it's the act of making your teaching materials accessible to your students. Crucially important. There are, like I said, places to go to find more information. Hopefully, there are places on your own campus, if you're an educator, teaching centers, et cetera, that can help you with that. What we're really focused on in Teach Access is what we call teaching accessibility. So it's actually the idea of, hey, Carrie, you're teaching intro to computer science, and you don't spend any time in the semester or quarter talking and teaching your students about accessibility. What do you need to be able to do that? How can we get you started? Kind of along the lines of the question Sam's group gets asked. So we get asked that a lot. And so yes, we could, but really we want to focus on, what do you need to help teach about this to your students? And then from students, this one really ties into what Sam was saying, and it is what we've talked about before. Our goal at Teach Access, one of our sort of phrases that we use a lot is, we're about breadth more than depth. And so the idea of students don't have to pursue a career in accessibility if they want to engage with our materials, or faculty don't have to only teach about accessibility or do research or scholarship on it. We really want everyone to know something. And then when we get students or faculty who want to know more, and we do, that's when we turn to Sean's organization, Sam's organization, and others to say, great, you want to know more, you want to have a career in accessibility, here you go. These are the places to go to do that. Our goal is really, how do we get a lot of people to know a little bit, to move that needle, so that as they enter organizations, or want to go take an exam with IAAP, that they feel a little bit more prepared, or at least are aware that these things exist to go do it. And then the final question that we get asked that I want to plug is, do our programs and resources cost money? And they do not. That is a core goal of ours, is to make sure that as we're doing this broad introduction, we are not putting up that barrier. So training resources, everything is on our website, and it does not cost money to engage with what we're doing. So, yeah.
That's amazing. It's like a symbiotic relationship between the three of these organizations, and obviously broader too. So that's great. I'm glad to hear that you all resource or point to each other's resources as well. All right, Sean, I have to ask, is the number one question that you get is how to say WCAG? Is it WCAG?
That is a common question. And by the way, if you're searching for an answer, you may or may not know this is addressed in a video on YouTube. So I don't know how many people know, you heard it here, that there is a WCAG theme song on, actually, I think there's a version, an old version and an updated version. So one of the, David McDonald, who's a participant in the working group, actually, and a musician, created the WCAG theme song. And I think one of the lines is there's, you say WCAG, I say WCAG. So there you go. But actually, the first question is related, and it's actually like, why is WCAG so difficult? And you may have caught that part of my background is technical editing. So I think my bachelor's degree formally is in, I don't know what it's, anyway. So the wording of some of the material in WCAG is challenging. And, I'm a big plain language advocate. And what I learned once I got involved and want to communicate is some of that, there's reasons. So for the WCAG itself, the WCAG, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines itself, has a lot of strict parameters. So for example, the success criteria have to apply in all situations. So it has to address edge cases. It needs to be testable. That was one of the big requirements when we moved from WCAG 1.0 to WCAG 2. Has to be testable. We know that WCAG is adopted as a requirement sometimes. So all these reasons are, all these parameters are some of the reasons that the WCAG wording itself is more difficult. And it's a bummer, but it's the way it is. We have then additional supporting resources that provide some more information. The other thing I want to make a big point of is that WCAG is not an introduction to accessibility. So, if someone says, where do I learn about accessibility? And you point them to WCAG, it's like, deer in the headlights, it's drinking from the fire hose, whatever metaphor you want to use. I said this at a conference once, and don't point to WCAG. Okay, the pause is start with the intro material. So WCAG is a technical standard. It has a purpose. It's incredibly useful. It's needed in the field, but it is not the starting place for accessibility. We have, as Kate and Sam mentioned, we have a wide range of resources, and we have an intro to accessibility, and we have the training material that Carrie mentioned, right? It's a free online course. Anybody can take it. We get a lot of good feedback. People find that super useful. So the second question I wanted to address, and Kate and Sam and I did not coordinate this, so it's like fun that this came up, but is that we do have all these free resources. So we actually have a question. I'll be doing training and someone will say, or at a conference, you should provide a resource on X. And I'm like, we have that. So one of the things, the questions is, do we have that? And we do. We have a lot more resources than people realize. And so I think just what we're doing here and amongst each other is to point to existing resources is hugely beneficial.
Thank you so much. I learned so much, again, a lot of history about the nomenclature and why maybe things were written the way that they were. And I love this push for plain language in the future. I've been watching all those drafts go by, and it's very exciting stuff. All right, so once more, thank you again for sharing your valuable insights. As we wrap up, let's focus to our final question. So we've explored the operations of your organizations and the value they bring to individuals and partners. So the only question left that I can see is, how do we get others to engage with your organization? What actionable steps or initiatives do you recommend as a call to action? And why don't you take this question first, Sean?
Sure. I'll follow up. I mean, I just said translations. So again, we'd love help with translations. It's kind of a pet project of mine. So I'm just excited to get the word out and would love your help. So on the bottom of every resource we have, there's a box that says help improve this page. And there's a link to GitHub and a link to email address. And we welcome you to just fire off a quick message saying whatever to help us improve everything. So that's something we added a few years ago. And we encourage input from everybody on anything. The other thing is that's for like existing resources. That's great, fine. We welcome help on resources that are out there. Even more useful is getting involved with things that we're actively working on, right? So we have a page that's called What We're Working On, Accessibility Activities and Publications. And that address is w3.org/WAI/update. And I encourage you to go and read that page. It has, like I said, an overview of what we're working on. And you can look there and say, oh, this looks interesting. I think I can help with this. And find out places that you could contribute there. And then finally, I would encourage you to subscribe to Getway News. So we have a dedicated announcement email list. We do some social media, and that you can also get that from w3.org/way/update. There's a link to that. And we've kind of made that a good first page to find out what we're doing and how you can get involved. So I would encourage you to go look at that page, what we're working on, accessibility activities and publications, which I update every month.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sean. All right, Sam, same question. How can people get involved with your organization?
So IAAP is a membership organization, but you don't have to be a member to subscribe to our newsletters. We have one monthly that's global news and activities around the world relating to accessibility. And we have and then a monthly, weekly newsletter that comes out that's more about IAAP activities and our members. You can engage with our communities on social media. You can participate in our free webinar offerings. You can join as a member to help continue to build this international community of accessibility professionals. But more importantly, we want you to encourage your organizations where you work, where you live, you play and learn to participate in organizational maturity process and accountability for accessibility. We have a criteria tool that does that for people who are interested in more details.
Short and sweet. I love it. Perfect. Thank you, Sam, for sharing that as well. All right, Kate, last question over to you now.
Absolutely. Similar to Sam and Sean, we also have a monthly newsletter, and similar to what Sean said, we try not to send out more than is necessary. So we certainly have that we encourage everybody to sign up for. We are pretty active on social media on a variety of channels. And different platforms. So we post about what we're doing or how to get involved there. We often have different volunteer opportunities. So it could be presenting to faculty, educators, and students about what's happening in your organization or around a specific topic. We also, at varying points, look for volunteers to help us with reviewing resources, helping guide trainings, et cetera, to ensure that it continues to be relevant for the community. A big one for us is sharing this information in your networks, especially if you have a network that reaches educators and students. So, hey, free student programs to come and learn about this stuff, get it out there. Same with educators. We have a variety of programs for them to receive training, some to receive funding. So grants, for example, apply for grants. But that's a huge piece for us is encouraging people to share this information in their networks. So that's something you can do. And all of this you can find at teachaccess.org. All of the information on this is there, including other ways to get involved and support what we're doing.
That's amazing. I love that. And I know, Kate, you have opportunities for people who are students, faculty, and in industry. Is that correct? All right.
That is correct.
At the individual and group level, correct? Awesome.
You are correct. Yes.
I might know just a little bit about it. But no, I think you all three are amazing people. I want to say, that's a wrap. But before we conclude this session, I wanted to express my heartfelt gratitude to each of you, esteemed panelists. So Sam Evans, Kate Sanka, and Sean Henry. Your expertise and insights have truly enriched our conversation today. So I'm incredibly grateful for your contributions to the community and also for your time today. I also want to extend a thanks to the audience for thoughtful questions and active participation. Your engagement has made this discussion all more enriching. And lastly, a big thank you to the organizers of the Microsoft Ability Summit for providing us this platform to exchange ideas and drive meaningful conversations around digital accessibility. It's been a privilege to be part of this conversation, and let's keep working together to build a more inclusive future. Thank you.